everyone. I'm Brad DeRoche. Welcome to this series on guitar fundamentals. This lesson is number 16, and in this lesson we're going to focus on how to change dynamics and timbre and practice those in your playing. To start with, let's take a look at dynamics. Dynamics refers to the changes in volume that we have in music, and to achieve that on the guitar, it's the technique of doing that involves pushing the string directly inward toward the instrument. So if I were to begin by playing really lightly, it's easier if I show you this way here, but I would just pull the finger pretty much straight across the string. Let's see, there's an angle I think we can see pretty well. So I'm just going straight across the string, and it's a fairly light sound, fairly quiet. But if I want to produce more volume, I actually start by pushing the finger further inward. Can you see the difference? It's very subtle, but here's light touch, hardly moving in the string, and if for a stronger dynamic, I depress the string inward toward the guitar more. All right, so starting with a light touch, and if I want heavier volume, more dynamic, I push the string directly inward more. So soft, quiet dynamic, loud dynamic. So the idea is to try to get the string pushed inward toward the guitar to produce more volume, a stronger dynamic. All right, so we have to work on that specific technique. It involves moving the finger inward this way slightly to start with to create a louder dynamic, or just coming straight across for a quieter dynamic. Okay, so now I'm going to refer to this packet again and to these little exercises that I created. It's actually just a list of dynamic levels. So let's take a look here toward the bottom of the page where it says dynamics, and you'll see across there some of the different dynamic levels. Pianissimo, pianissimo, etc., all the way up to molto fortissimo. So what we're looking at here, we're going to go through each of these different dynamic levels and practice them with a simple scale. So let's just take that one octave scale pattern that we've used a number of times, a major scale, and let's practice it with a really quiet dynamic level. So I'm hardly pushing across the string at all, so I want a really quiet dynamic. Then I want to bring it up one notch to pianissimo. Piano. Mezzo piano. Mezzo forte. Forte. Fortissimo. And fortissimo. And so each time I do those, I have to push the notes in further toward the soundboard to create more dynamic, or not pushing as far for less dynamic. So we have to get used to these in our practice, so that when it comes to playing a piece, it's not something foreign to us. All right, so I recommend doing those with a simple scale pattern. It's not hard to do if you just take one scale and practice that for a few minutes every day. Over the course of time, you get very used to creating different dynamic levels. Now, you can also do this with arpeggios. Now, we haven't talked in this series about arpeggios too much, so let me just quick throw that out. The idea arpeggio comes from an Italian term, or two terms actually. A-R-P is harp, and eggio means in the manner of. So in the manner of a harp, or in the style of a harp. So it means playing the notes of a chord one after the other. It's that simple. So we could do this with open strings, and I'm going to use a simple open string pattern of thumb, P, index, middle, ring. P-I-M-A, thumb, index, middle, ring. Now, when I'm practicing this, I'm going to start off very quiet, pianissimo. And then each time I go through it, a little louder, a little louder. And so on. You get the idea. So you can practice dynamics with both scales and arpeggios, all right? So I would recommend that you do that with a couple of different types of exercises. Don't limit it only to scales or to arpeggios. Try and mix it up and do at least some of each. All right, so with dynamics, you want to practice those different dynamic levels. You want to think of each one of those as a separate entity. Now, there's no exact amount of sound that fortissimo is. It's relative, or relative to the piece of music or the ensemble you're playing in or whatever. But anyway, you get the idea. You have to work on different dynamic levels, and so that you become comfortable producing those different volumes. Then also on this page, there's a couple of these different wedge symbols for crescendo and diminuendo, get louder, get quieter. And so you could also practice that within a scale, starting quiet, getting louder, and then getting quieter. Or starting loud, getting quiet, and getting loud again. And you can also do sudden changes of subito piano, so suddenly quiet, or suddenly loud, and so on. So practice all these different dynamic levels in your playing with scales, and you can do the same with arpeggios. All right, then next, let's take a look at timbre. Timbre, we've actually already talked about way back in lesson number 8. And so in that lesson, I really got into detail about how to produce different kinds of sound color or timbre on the instrument, and sort of the fundamental techniques behind that. So I won't go into great detail today. I just kind of gloss over it, but the basic idea is we have two different ways to produce different sound colors on the instrument. One is to go way back by the bridge and play to get a bright sound, normal here, and dark or dolce up here. We can also use changes in the angle that we go across the string to highlight those sounds. So the more parallel we play to the string, the darker the sound, the warmer the sound, or more dolce if you would. And the more perpendicular to the string, the brighter or more ponticello the sound will be. And we can combine that with movement up and down. So we can play back here and go straight 90 degree perpendicular to the string and produce a really bright sound, etc. So anyway, in order to practice that in our playing, we want to apply that to a scale or to an arpeggio. So let's start with the scale. And the idea of changes in timbre I've also got in this packet, and it happens to be on page 2. So if you look on page 2 here, up at the top are just simply listed the 3 different broad regions of sound that we produce on the instrument. And so we're going to take a look at those, and we'll start out with ponticello. So let's play a scale ponticello, which is way back here. Then we'll play it ordinary, and then dolce. Now I combined moving forward and aft along with a little bit of this movement of the wrist to produce to highlight those sounds a little bit. So you need to practice that in scale playing. Then we can also do that with arpeggios. Now we did the open string arpeggio the last time. You could also do Giuliani arpeggios. Most of us are familiar with those. And I have those listed in this packet also. So if you want to take a look at page 6. Page 6 looks like this. It's a set of arpeggios from Mauro Giuliani, 19th century guitarist composer, and I'm actually going to play arpeggio number 2. It involves a C major chord moving to G7 and back to C. Just take a look at page 6 and follow along with exercise number 2, or if not, here it is. It's just using PIM in the right hand, thumb, index, middle, and the thumb moves, but index and middle remain on the top 2 strings for each arpeggio. So on the thumb I played string 5, 4, 3, 5. Switch chords to a G7 chord in first inversion. Same concept in the right hand. Anyway, so that simple arpeggio, Giuliani number 2, normal sound, dolce, that too. So what you want to do is you want to practice each of these different things like arpeggios and scales with different timbre and dynamic changes in them. The reason that you want to do this is you want to get used to all these different articulations and expressive devices when you're working on scales and arpeggios and slurs and those more fundamental technical drills, so that when it comes time to playing a piece, it's not a new idea for you or a foreign idea. It's already something you've worked with a lot, and you can automatically shape the sound how you want. So we can become, again, more painterly guitarists and more artistic in the end, more expressive. So these expressive concepts that I'm working on, these next couple of lessons here, are designed to really make the most of our artistry in our technique. So you don't ever want to do something in a really dry fashion over and over and over, like just mindlessly playing a scale 1,000 times. I suppose if you've never worked on it before, just learning it is one thing, but once you've learned a pattern like that, then you need to start doing other things with it, like working on changes in timbre or dynamics, or combining those ideas. You could have different changes of timbre and dynamics. All right, so anyway, hopefully we'll give you a few ideas to incorporate into your practice. So the focus on today again was on dynamics, changes in dynamics, and changes in timbre, and you can use the accompanying sheet to help you keep track of that stuff, and hopefully it'll help you and make you more expressive as a player. Anyway, happy practicing. Try and get some good time in and some thoughtful practice, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Cheers.